Let's jump right into this explainer. We're going to completely bypass the typical introductions today. No long origin stories, no reading off a list of credentials. Instead, we're diving straight into a deeply personal postmortem of a trading trauma that so many of us share. You pass the evaluations, your technical execution is literally flawless, and then, the exact moment real capital is on the line, the whole shebang just falls apart. Today, we're breaking down exactly why this happens, and more importantly, how to permanently fix it. I want to place you right inside this exact moment. You're sitting at your desk, you're staring at your funded account dashboard, and bam, that unmistakable red banner has appeared. Feel that immediate, visceral sinking sensation right in your chest. Just notice the absolute heavy silence in the room right now. You've just blown your third, maybe your fourth, or in some cases, your sixth funded account. It's a very specific kind of exhaustion, isn't it? Let that reality sit for a second. The excitement from just 2 weeks ago is completely gone, replaced by this deep, numbing frustration. And every single time that blown account screen popped up, this exact same haunting question echoed in the back of your head. What was actually wrong with me? Seriously, why could you pass those grueling evaluations with absolute precision, but then immediately blow the real capital? You performed perfectly. You had the strategy dialed in, but then this inexplicable behavioral shift happened, and you started making decisions you couldn't even explain to yourself. So, here is our agenda for this explainer. We'll start with the concept of the external prosthetic, move into the 3 specific psychological shifts that happen when funded, analyze the 30-day danger zone, and then discuss building internal infrastructure and redefining your identity. Okay, Section 1, the external prosthetic. For years, you've probably been misdiagnosing yourself. You blamed it on this vague lack of discipline, right? You added more indicators, you tightened your risk. Maybe you wrote strict rules on sticky notes and slapped them on your monitor. But none of that worked because those were false fixes for a disease we didn't really understand. Here's the core reframe. The prop firm evaluation rules gave you something you didn't even know you were borrowing. They acted as an external prosthetic. That rigid structure of daily loss limits, maximum drawdowns, and strict parameters, it was actually doing all of your emotional regulation work for you. It created a forced behavioral compliance, totally masking the fact that you hadn't built any internal discipline of your own. Notice the jarring psychological contrast between these two states. Evaluation mode acts as a hard, unyielding physical boundary. But the very second you get funded, that external constraint just vanishes. The scaffolding drops away, exposing a massive internal void. The reality is, whatever emotional patterns you had never actually fixed come rushing back immediately. You didn't fail because you couldn't trade. You failed because you lacked the internal architecture to survive without the evaluation's rules holding you together. Moving on to Section 2, 3 shifts when funded. These 3 shifts happen incredibly fast. First, the sudden lack of those external evaluation boundaries instantly triggers deep anxiety. Your brain just feels completely untethered. Second, the moment you take your first significant loss, the revenge cycle activates. Your prefrontal cortex basically goes offline, and your brain screams for a dopamine hit of recovery to relieve the pain of the loss. And third, the brand new pressure to secure a payout creates this desperate, constant urgency in literally every single trading session. The market moves, your brain registers it as potential, and dopamine absolutely demands action. But remember, the market always offers trades. Your edge does not. Let's look at Section 3, the 30-day danger zone. The first 30 days of being funded are the absolute danger zone. This is when the vast majority of funded accounts go up in smoke. Why? Because surviving real capital under real pressure requires a total shift in your priorities. During this window, you have to realize that you must protect your psychological capital long before you protect your financial capital. Honestly, survival just has to come first. Trace this exact timeline because it really reveals the neurochemical trap. Day 1, you achieve funded status. Amazing. But within week 1, the first significant loss inevitably occurs. Immediately, your brain associates the pain with a desperate need for a dopamine hit, which triggers a revenge trade. And by week 2, the account is blown. It's a neurochemical problem dressed up as market analysis. A trader who has a full account but a completely destroyed mental state is simply losing in slow motion. Which brings us to Section 4. Building internal infrastructure. So how do we actually fix this? The solution definitely isn't adding yet another indicator to your chart. It's building a behavioral infrastructure. This is our guiding philosophy, discipline over dopamine, or DOD. It is the active practice of recognizing exactly when your brain is seeking stimulation and deliberately choosing structure over the quick chemical reward of taking an action. To interrupt that neurochemical revenge cycle, you absolutely must build hard physical boundaries. Think about a mandatory 20-minute cooling period immediately after any stop out. No looking at charts, no analysis, and absolutely no re-entry. You just have to let that cortisol and dopamine spike completely subside. The internal architecture required to survive relies on these 4 pillars. Before you even start, you make an identity declaration. Then session mapping, because the strategy is the map and the market is the territory. Next is neutrality scoring, which we'll dive into in a second, followed by hard session rules that dictate exactly when you stop trading, regardless of what the market is doing. This architecture is what separates a neurochemical feeling from a mechanical execution. Now, this right here is the most rigid requirement of the entire architecture. You must possess a 7 out of 10 emotional neutrality score to even glance at your charts. I mean it. If you are emotional and that score dips below a 7, your participation is 0. No exceptions whatsoever. You have to trust the structural rules over your real-time judgment. Because let's face it, your judgment is entirely compromised when your emotional state is low.
Let's look at the mathematical proof of why less is truly more. Look at the massive difference in identity happening here. The retail trader takes, say, 10 trades a session, burning through emotional capital with a 40% win rate, endlessly hunting for action just to prove themselves. Meanwhile, the professional operator takes maybe 2 trades. They filter environments specifically to protect their capital, operating at a 70% win rate. Selectivity is their edge. Doing less actually builds a sustainable funded account. It's a real game changer.
Finally, Section 5, redefining identity. Redefining what consistency actually means is absolutely crucial. It's not about perfection of prediction, not at all. It's about consistency of self. True consistency is behavioral repeatability under uncertainty. It means executing the exact same processes, honoring the exact same hard rules, whether you are deep in a painful drawdown or sitting right on the verge of your very first massive payout. I want you to step forward into this new reality for a second. Imagine you're sitting right there at your desk. The market spikes aggressively. You see that fast price movement, but instead of that frantic urgency you used to feel, you remain perfectly still. You observe yourself as a calm, seasoned operator. You realize, hey, I can feel the impulse without immediately obeying it. You finally possess the internal architecture to just sit back and watch. In that state of deep calm, you understand that patience isn't just being passive. Patience creates precision. You realize that doing nothing is actually a high-skill, incredibly active discipline. It's the active protection of your edge from your very own participation instinct. You filter out the noise, you wait for alignment, and you execute cleanly, totally unbothered by the chaos unfolding on the screen. Ultimately, there's a version of your future where you pass the next evaluation, and you actually keep the account. Why? Because you built something the evaluation cannot give you, and definitely cannot take away. We trade to live. We do not live to trade. The evaluation cannot give you what only you can build. That's the core of the Session Trading Lab framework. So the next time you sit down at your charts with real capital on the line, I want you to ask yourself, are you trading just to feed your dopamine, or have you finally built the internal structure to protect your life?